Hiya, we're out today, as you can see, in an estuary, and I'd like to take 5 minutes out to talk to you about the Guidelines bass fishing gear or coastal gear, and what you would need for your basic trips and things that will make your trip, for, say if you live away from the coast, that little bit easier if you're visiting down on, say, holiday and you want to get into fish. So we'll start off first with I am in an estuary. Now most estuaries in the south of England, Wales, are stuffed with bass this time of year, and it's a perfect opportunity to, while the kids and the missus are over on the beaches having a family getaway, you can slip away for a couple hours on a tide and enjoy a bit of fishing. You can use rods from sort of 7 weight and 8 weight preferred, but if you're fishing really big flies, you can go up to a 9 weight if needs be. So as you can see, pick an estuary, look at Google Maps, and you'll see the features that are there. First off, you always need to tell someone where you are, because although this looks nice and peaceful and tranquil behind me, these places can be very, very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. The sea takes no prisoners, so always know, either go with someone or let someone know where you are. Always carry your phone with you. If you do that, you can have hours of fun on the coast. I've been lucky enough, I live only sort of 20 minutes away, and I enjoy quite often some really good sea fishing. So let's talk you through the gear now. So this is the gear I'm using today. What I've got is the LPXE Coastal paired with the Halo 8.9. Now this is an 8 weight with an 8.9 reel on. That's perfectly balanced to the fish sort of style I'm doing. It's not too heavy in the hand, but as you can see, it sits nicely in the hand. Couple that with an 8 weight forward floating line, plenty of backing on the reel, and streamers. Leader wise, I would say roughly sort of 8 to 10 foot long, thereabouts, personal preference. On the floating lines and intermediates, sometimes, this is a personal preference to me, sometimes if I'm fishing sinking flies, you can keep that same leader on, but I quite often like to fish neutral buoyant flies, flies with no weight. So if I'm fishing a sink line, say a sink 3 or something like that, in fast flow in these channels, I'd like to fish a real short leader, say 3 or 4 foot, and that sinking line will drag the fly down, giving that fly still all that loose movement because it has no weight on it. So that's a good little tip. Reel with a good drag, and bearing in mind that always when you get home, is give your gear a rinse off in the bath or the sink, because the salt is corrosive. Even on salt specific gear, it always pays dividends to look after your gear and wash it after a session. Another bit of kit, line trays. For me, really important. There's nothing more infuriating than standing on your line, especially when you're on mussels and rough ground. If you're on rocks, you damage your fly line, your leaders, and at the end of the day, you'll kick yourself if you lose a decent fish because you damaged your line yourself. So line tray as an absolute must. On top of that, little boxes, full to the brim of streamers, anything from sort of 3 inch, 2 inch if needs be. I like to fish right up to big, almost pike sized flies, imitating mullet, and that's where I use a 9 weight some of the time. With that, waders, a good rucksack to store your gear in, snacks and supplies, plenty of fluids because you're exposed out here, net on the back. What else do you need? Nothing really. Like I say, make sure you've got a good camera phone to take the pictures of the decent fish you catch. Fly wise, bait fish imitations or shrimps, anything like that, fairly natural colours or the opposite end of the scale, like lemonbacks, bright chartreuse yellow tend to really good for the bass. Trial and error. Go through your box and see what works for you. What works for me may not work for you where you are, so it's always worth to play around. Leader wise, the fluorocarbon between the fly, 10 pound minimum. Today I'm fishing actually behind me, you can't see it yet, they're not exposed, but I'm fishing mussel beds. So I'm actually on 20 pound fluorocarbon today because the fish will run over the bars, which are gravel and mussels, and they will fray up and nick the line. So I tend to fish a little bit heavier line, but really 10 to 15 pounds is about all you need. And if you're fishing a 7 weight, 8 to 10 pound is absolutely perfect for those 3 and 4 inch flies. And that's about it really. So grab yourself a nice saltwater outfit. Guideline do a couple outfits that are appropriate, like the Elevation and this coastal range, along with some nice sealed reels, like our Fario, our Voso or our Halo, and you're ready to hit the ground running. Hopefully that gives a bit of an insight into what we use, and hopefully you'll be able to see me with some nice fish posted this week on the page. Cheers!